I'm Staff Sergeant Tessa Navarro, 34, parked on the edge of a packed Spokane bistro while my sister's birthday plays out like a corny highlight reel. Glasses knock, laughter ricochets off tile, and the family table sits center stage, my name nowhere on a place card. Dad, Hector Navarro, stands to toast the daughter who has it all. The room roars. My sister, Zara, flicks her gaze toward me with that polished, practiced smirk. I'm background noise in her spotlight. I feel heat climb my neck. I steady my hands around my phone the way I steady a rifle. Slow inhale 4 counts, slow exhale 4. Years of being etched out, talked over, written off. Tonight that ends. I step forward, shoulders square, voice cutting clean through the chatter. Lock this in, you're going to remember tonight. Silence. Head swivel. Zara's smile twitches. I turn and walk out, heartbeat steady now that the decision's made. 30 minutes later, phones across that dining room start buzzing. Pings, gasps, chairs scraping. Think it ended there? Not even close. If you were me, what would you have done? Drop it in the comments. Outside under the neon hum, the old sting is still there. The kind you get when you've been invisible so long you start to believe it's safer that way. It didn't start tonight. Spokane raced me in Zara's shadow. Zara was the golden story my parents loved to tell. I was Tessa trying hard. When I was 10, I hauled home a first-place science fair ribbon after weeks of wiring a volcano model that actually cycled pressure. Dad glanced up from the paper, tapped my shoulder, "Nice work, kiddo," and went back to the sports page. 2 days later, Zara won a spelling bee and Mom, Elena, threw a neighborhood party with balloons and sheet cake. I stood in the corner with my ribbon, wondering why my win didn't count as celebration material. It only sharpened in high school. I pulled all-nighters for grades and scholarships, joined JRC, and ran pre-dawn miles while Spokane was still fogged in. I made honor society. Dad said, "That's nice." Zara, 2 grades down, made cheer. Overnight our living room turned into a shrine. Photos, pom-poms, a framed Best Spirit certificate. Mom chauffeured her to practices like it was a diplomatic mission. I rode the bus to drill and debate meets. When I asked why no one ever came to watch me compete, Mom shrugged. "Zara has a big game, Tess. You understand." The one person who didn't talk to me like I was a footnote was my granddad, Amos Price, a retired teacher with a radar for nonsense. We were on his porch with lemonade when I finally asked, "Why do they love her more?" He studied me for a long second. "They're dazzled by shine," he said. "You're steel. Don't let anyone file you down." I held on to that. Still, steel aches. At 17 I stacked shifts at a coffee shop and bought a dented used laptop so I could chase scholarships and, if I was lucky, an ROTC slot that could commission me into the Army and help with a JAG track later. That same week, Zara unboxed a brand new camera for her creative journey, courtesy of our parents. At dinner they raved about her photos hitting 1,000 likes. No one asked what I was building on that laptop. I ate quietly, fork ticking the plate like a metronome. When we fought, it was the same pattern. She borrowed my jacket. I called her on it. She tossed her hair. "Maybe earn something worth having, Tess." Mom overheard and scolded me for being selfish. Dad stayed neutral, which is just another word for absent. I closed my door and promised myself I'd outwork all of it. College didn't flip the script. I called home with good news. Dean's list, an internship at a law office that actually took environmental cases. Mom said, "That's great. Did you see Zara's latest video? 10,000 followers." My all-nighters and pre-dawn PT, my plans to serve and practice law, they were background static compared to her metrics. Looking back, every slight was a rep in the gym. Quiet, heavy, constant. I learned to carry weight, keep pace, and move with purpose. Not for their applause, just to prove to myself I wouldn't break. I worked like I was back on ruck march. Head down, steady pace, no whining, because standing out wasn't for them anymore. It was for me. The only person who seemed to notice was my grandfather, Amos Price. He'd press a worn 20 into my palm and murmur, "For your mission, kid." He believed when nobody else did. By the time I was practicing environmental law in Spokane, I figured I'd outgrown the old family pecking order. Army Reserve on weekends, courtroom during the week. My life had structure, purpose. Then Zara's birthday stunt ripped the scab off, and all the years of second place came roaring back. I wasn't chasing a chair at their table anymore. I was after the truth. That summer the hits started landing in groups. First was the promotion. I'd led a headline case against a company dumping into the Spokane River. Late nights, airtight filings, the whole nine. My managing partner, Lauren Pritchard, had all but said I was the obvious pick for senior associate. I drilled my presentation like a range table. Rehearse, adjust, repeat. Decision day came, and they announced someone junior to me. In the hall, Lauren pulled me aside, voice soft. It was close, Tessa, but questions about reliability. Reliability? I don't miss deadlines. I pressed. She stared at the carpet and said it came from above. I walked back to my desk with that sick, hollow feeling you get when a comms line goes dead. Who was feeding that into my chain? Then my partner on a $10,000 community grant, Jonah Chu, bailed without warning. We'd poured weeks into the proposal. His email was 2 lines, I'm out. Heard things about your work ethic. I called, he deflected, said he didn't want drama. My work ethic is the one thing I never have to defend, and now I was defending it to my own mirror. The worst blow landed at home. Micah Sloan, my boyfriend of 2 years, showed up at my place tight-jawed. I know you're seeing someone else. I laughed at first because it was absurd. Then he held up his phone. A text apparently from my number months old hinting I was out with him again. I swore it wasn't mine. He didn't buy it. I can't do this. Door closed. Silence. For weeks I toggled through message logs and backups, finding nothing. How does a ghost text wear my caller ID? Right as I steadied my breathing, my professional Instagram detonated. I don't live online, but I use it for environmental law updates, clean water rulings, community wins. One morning the account spit out a rant calling my firm crooked and accusing me of faking credentials. Clients DM'd question marks. Colleagues whispered. I locked the account, changed passwords, did the whole OPSEC checklist. Damage, however, doesn't care about checklists. It was done. Lauren listened to my explanation with polite eyes and a new, careful distance. Every time smoke curled up from a new fire, Zara materialized with a paper cup and a hug. After the promotion, oh Tess, I'm devastated for you. Next time, right? When Jonah bailed, honestly, he did you a favor. After Micah left, you deserve better, sis. All sugar on the tongue, but her eyes smiled at the wrong moments, like she'd already seen the ending. Little tells stacked up like shell casings. She kept fishing for work stuff. Which clients, what passwords I used for all your apps, how our firm handled two-factor. At a family dinner, she joked about me being hopeless with tech the day after my account got hacked. Mama Elena chimed in with, you've always been a bit scattered, Tessa. Dad, Hector chewed and stared at his plate. My jaw locked. Doubt, small but sharp, finally broke the skin. A week later I heard something I couldn't ignore. I stopped by my parents' place in Spokane with groceries. Quiet house, just the fridge humming and a murmur from the living room. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but Zara's voice carried, low and careful, like she was briefing a co-conspirator. Don't worry. I've got a way to keep her off center stage, she whispered. She won't see it coming. My pulse spiked. Her was me. I edged closer, held my breath. A soft laugh, then the call ended. I slipped out before she saw me, mind spinning. The promotion. The grant. Micah. The hacked account. Suddenly the pattern looked less like bad luck and more like a planned op. I drove across town to the one person who never needed proof to believe me. Grandad Amos Price. 82, sharp as a knife, sitting in his armchair surrounded by stacks of books and old lesson plans. I laid it out, the whispers I'd just heard, the string of hits I'd taken. He leaned back, eyes narrowing. Zara's always had a mean competitive streak, he said. When you were kids she took credit for your projects. Broke that volcano model and called it an accident. Winning mattered more to her than people. I'd buried that memory. Hearing it again felt like an alarm I'd snoozed for years. Hunches weren't enough. I called my best friend, Jay Park, an attorney at another firm who knows where paper trails like to hide. We met at a quiet coffee shop, backs to the wall, eyes on the door, habit. I walked her through the timeline, the phone call, the reliability rumor that came from nowhere. If she's fouling your airspace, she'll leave trace, Jay said, flipping open her laptop. Start with the hack. We checked my Instagram, activity logs, login history, recovery email, cleaned and reset since the breach. Nothing obvious. Jay didn't flinch. People like this rarely act alone. Let's look for a smear account. We combed through community tags and legal circles until we found it. A fresh burner called RiverCity_Insider. Only a handful of posts, but every one of them painted me as lazy, dishonest, or incompetent, vague enough to spread, pointed enough to sting. The likes came from local industry folks who didn't know me well, just enough to wonder. My stomach dropped. This is why clients went quiet. Anonymous isn't invisible, Jay said. We checked the account's first follows and timing. Created days after my hack. Following Zara and a cluster of her influencer friends, but somehow not a single person from my firm. Not proof, but the pattern was waving a flare. On the drive home I called Granddad again, asked if Zara had mentioned me lately. She's been fishing, he said. Asking about your cases. Said it was for a surprise. I didn't buy it. His voice had that protective edge, like he'd been waiting for me to connect the dots. Jay and I made a plan. She'd tap her contacts to see if similar anonymous posts hit other local lists, and I'd start locking down every digital door like it was base at night. 2FA new passwords, hardware keys. This wasn't just about clearing my name anymore. It was about exposing the operator behind the curtain. Over the next month we dug in. Jay started with the burner that smeared me, RiverCity_Insider. She pulled every scrap she could. Timestamps, link redirects, masked recovery hints. After hours of cross-checking metadata and login patterns, she looked up from her laptop. It's her, Jay said, voice steady. The sign-up email was created the same week your account was hacked. My pulse kicked. Zara wasn't sloppy, she was running an op. Next we went to the grant fiasco. Jay had a contact at my former partner's firm, and because the proposal lived on a shared workspace, we could review the audit trail without crossing any lines. There it was. A burner message routed to Jonah 2 days before he bailed. Tessa's sloppy. Don't let her drag you down. Jonah had forwarded it to a colleague as proof. I felt sick. My sister hadn't just undercut me, she'd salted the earth. Granddad took a different lane. He still managed the for emergencies only joint savings our mom set up when we were kids. He called one evening, voice gravelly with anger. I checked the statements. Zara's been withdrawing. 5,000 total without you. He emailed the PDFs. One transfer flagged an online marketing firm, the kind influencers use to juice numbers. So she was funding the mess with our safety net. The cleanest piece of evidence came from a little sting. I sat in a quiet cafe, called Zara from a blocked number, and pretended to be a small brand looking to hire her. She lit up, happy to talk shop. I nudged the conversation toward my bad press, the hack, the rumors. Oh, that happens all the time, she said, smug and airy. Some people just don't belong in the spotlight. Ever help keep it that way? I asked. She laughed. Let's just say I know how to keep things balanced. I recorded every word. My hands shook when I ended the call, her voice so casual about wreckage that had cost me years. Then Micah reached out. We hadn't spoken since the breakup. We met on a bench by the river, cold air stinging our cheeks. I owe you an apology, he said, eyes tired. He dug up the cheating text from my number and run it by a tech friend. It traced back to a spoofing service, the same platform Zara's team used for campaign blasts. My chest tightened. She hadn't just clipped my career, she detonated my life. At Jay's apartment we laid it all out like evidence on a briefing table. Burner account tie-in. RiverCity_Insider linked to a throwaway email created the week of my hack. Smear email. The message to Jonah urging him to spread unreliable stuck in the shared workspace logs. Theft. Bank statements showing $5,000 in unauthorized withdrawals from the emergency fund, including a payment to a growth marketing firm. Recorded call. Zara bragging about keeping things balanced. Spoofed text. Micah's proof that the breakup message came through a campaign tool connected to her brand. We didn't stop at finding. We verified. Jay matched the email's creation time against Zara's public posts. She'd been bragging that week about taking control. Granddad confirmed the withdrawals with the branch manager. I archived Micah's screenshots and the recording to an encrypted drive and mirrored them to a second device, logging dates and hashes like chain of custody. The case was airtight. And it broke my heart. Zara had stacked her wins on my bruises. By her 30th I was done playing defense. The banquet hall in Spokane was all uplights and rented glamour. Tables of influencers, brand reps and family. I stood in the back, phone in my palm, breathing square. In 4 hold 4 out 4. Heart steady. This wasn't about old favoritism anymore. This was an operation. Dad, Hector, lifted a glass. To our brightest star. The room answered with applause. Zara's dress threw sparks under the chandeliers. Her smile did the rest. Mom, Elena, watched her the way people watch fireworks. I'd already set conditions with Jay. Before the toasts ended, I pushed the package live on Instagram and tagged every guest, every sponsor, every friendly outlet in that room. Slide by slide. The sign-up email tying RiverCity_Insider to the week of my hack. The burner note to Jonah Chu calling me sloppy and urging him to spread it. Bank statements showing $5,000 siphoned from the emergency fund into a growth marketing firm. A clipped audio file of Zara's voice. Let's just say I know how to keep things balanced. Caption. The truth about Zara Navarro. You can feel a room pivot before it moves. First the buzz, then the hush, then 1,000 tiny screens lighting faces blue. Whispers broke formation and swept the tables. Zara laughed at something a sponsor said, then stopped. She grabbed her phone, scrolled, went pale. What is this? Her voice pitched high, not for me but for the room. I stepped forward, posture loose, chin level. I showed them who you are, Zara. You sabotaged my career, my relationship, my life. It's over. She forced a smile that couldn't find her eyes. It's fake. She's always been jealous. The line sounded practiced. The room wasn't buying it. A brand rep in a navy pantsuit, partnerships lead from one of Zara's biggest deals, looked from her screen to Zara. These headers track, she said evenly. We need to talk. She turned away, already dialing. I caught the words, pause the contract. Dad moved in with a calming hand on Zara's shoulder. Let's all take a breath. Tessa, you're blowing this out of proportion. Misunderstanding. My chest felt tight but my voice stayed even. She stole from me, Dad. She planted lies to crater my name. He flinched and looked at the carpet. Mom squared to me, voice sharp. How dare you ruin her night? You always make it about you. No, I said. This is about the truth. The ripple became a drift toward the exits. Friends whispered on their way out. Did you hear the audio? She admitted it. One of Zara's sponsors set her flute down like it was evidence and slipped away. Zara turned on me, mask gone. You'll pay for this, she hissed. I didn't blink. You paid first. You chose this. She shoved past a server, glittering and furious, and disappeared through a side door. Dad hesitated, half-step after her. Mom stayed, glare locked on me. You've torn this family apart, she said low. I shook my head. No, Mom. Zara did that. I walked out into the cold with my phone still buzzing. Likes, DMs, tags stacking up like after-action pings. By sunrise, her numbers were in free fall. A $10,000 campaign vanished before breakfast. The persona she'd lacquered over the truth started peeling in sheets. I didn't feel victorious, just steady. For once, I wasn't a ghost in my own family. Then I drew my perimeter. I blocked Zara everywhere. No more PR apologies in my texts. I called my mother, Elena, and kept my voice level. You chose her story over the facts. I'm done. She inhaled sharply. You're abandoning your family, Tessa. So dramatic. I didn't argue doctrine with someone who rejects the map. Goodbye, Mom. The line went quiet, and for the first time in years I felt light. A week later, my dad, Hector, knocked on my door, guilt wearing his face. I should have seen it, he said. I'm sorry, Mija. I remembered all the nights he let silence do the talking while Mom lit sparklers for Zara. I needed you then, not now, I said. He nodded, eyes down, and left. It wasn't cruelty, it was clarity. Some bridges aren't safe to cross again. Zara's world kept collapsing. Jay filed a civil suit for defamation and conversion using the same packet we'd posted. The burner trail, the smear email, the bank pulls, the audio, the spoof text. Zara tried to settle. I'll pay it back. But this wasn't about cash. It was about consequences. The court ordered $10,000 in damages plus return of the stolen funds. She complied, but the ruling burned hotter than any headline. Her follower count plunged from 7 figures to a fraction. Sponsors bailed in a neat little queue. She posted the standard growth and accountability notes. Her audience replied with receipts. Back at the firm, the wind shifted. My managing partner, Lauren Pritchard, called me in a month after the judgment. I braced for impact. Instead she smiled. You proved yourself, Tessa. Your Spokane River work was exceptional and we've put the rumor mill to bed. She offered me the senior associate slot I should have had the year prior. I accepted, posture still, heart loud. Recognition hit different when you haven't begged for it. I rebuilt deliberately. Jay and I kept our Sunday coffees, and for the first time they weren't tactical briefings, they were just good. Grandad Amos called often, pride warm in his voice. You did the hard right, he said. Not many do. Zara came at me once through a mutual friend's phone. Tears, apologies. Can we fix this? The answer was simple. No. You made those choices. My hand didn't shake when I hung up. Work filled the days in a way that felt clean. New water policy cases, clients who trusted me again, hallways without whispers. Spokane felt smaller in a good way, like a town I could actually carry. Then there was someone new. I met Noah Whitaker at a river cleanup. Middle school science teacher with a quiet laugh and a knack for getting kids to care about salmon runs. We started with coffee, graduated to trail miles, and somewhere along the way I stopped proving and just was. 6 months later we moved into a small downtown walk-up with too many plants and more books than shelves. The circle that mattered stayed tight. Noah, Jay, and Amos. For my 35th I cooked pasta. Noah pulled a loaf from the oven like a magic trick. Jay brought a bottle with a handwritten label, and Amos showed up with his apple pie still warm. We ate at a wobbly table under cheap string lights and talked about Noah's students, Jay's latest win, Amos's fishing stories that always grew an inch. It was simple and alive, the opposite of rented chandeliers and curated smiles. When the plates were pushed back, I told them what the last year had taught me. I spent too long trying to earn a kind of love that kept moving the goalposts. Respect isn't begged for. It's enforced by boundaries. Jay nodded. You were always this strong, she said. You just stopped asking permission. Noah squeezed my hand under the table. Amos raised his glass. To standing tall. Sometimes I'd hear that Zara landed in Seattle, trying to reassemble her brand. I didn't check. Mom sent an occasional holiday text. Dad asked about the weather twice. I kept the distance measured and intentional. Conditional love has no place in my AO. Work thrived. Senior associate meant longer hours, but the mission was the kind that fills your lungs. Better regulations, cleaner water, fewer loopholes for bad actors. The rumors Zara planted evaporated, replaced by a track record with dates and signatures. After everyone left that night, I stood on the balcony overlooking the city. The river threw back threads of light in the dark, and for the first time in a long while my brain went quiet. The scars are still mine, sure, but they're not steering anymore. Perimeter set. Peace held. I was free.